What is going on, guys? I couldn't wait any longer. I know there are guys still speaking. I think Elijah Mitchell just went. We had Mike McGlinchey speak. We had Fred Warner speak. But I really want to talk about what John Lynch was talking about. So if there's any other pertinent information that comes out from any players that hop on, I'll be getting notifications so we can bring some things up. But if you have not seen, the San Francisco 49ers they finally got Aziz Al-Shair to be able to sign that 1-year tender. So fantastic news. We got two pieces of information that at least make us feel like we are going to get Aziz Al-Shair, linebacker, and we are going to get Nick Bosa available for the upcoming year, which is huge. We need both of those players available in order to compete in the NFL. We also found out that Elijah Mitchell had some offseason knee surgery, but more so cleanup than anything else. We heard from Mike McGlinchey that he's on track, he's doing well, and he's headed in the right direction in regards to being back for the 49ers this coming season. So that's good to know. But let's talk a little bit about John Lynch. Let's talk about the situation regarding Deebo Samuel. Clearly, some of the things that were being said in regards to Deebo Samuel, he did not want to talk about it. He started off with a super long rant. Kind of like, hey, if I don't stop talking, you can't ask me questions about Deebo. So, um, it's kind of what it felt like in regards to the opening statement. But obviously, as we know, and we were able to watch, and if you have not watched, we will recap. Also, smash that like button on this YouTube channel if you haven't already. Get this video up and get this thing going. So smash that like button, hit the sub button if you haven't already. But essentially, the way I perceived the interview to be regarding the Deebo Samuel situation, there's a clear reason why he doesn't want to talk about it. The clear reason is Deebo Samuel is potentially up for a trade. Now, he said things that would, could maybe indicate that, hey, maybe they aren't going to trade Deebo. Like, quote, John Lynch said, I can't ever imagine wanting to move on from Deebo. And why would he? I don't think any one of us could. When we look at the entire situation, I don't think 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, any one of us could have imagined the San Francisco moving on from Deebo Samuel. So when you listen to John Lynch speak about the Deebo Samuel situation, he didn't use any definitive language. Nothing that was said was definitive. We talked about it on the show that we were having before it started, and we came on and said we have to be on the lookout for definitive language. And so we got none of it. We got none of it at all. And, John Lynch went on to say, quote, we've got nothing but love for Deebo, but you don't let guys like that walk. Essentially meaning, hey, this guy isn't going to be able to just dictate where he goes. He can just leave if he wants to. That's not going to happen. But like I said, there was no definitive language in regards to the way he spoke about Deebo Samuel. Clearly, he deflected a ton of the questions about Deebo. But again, nothing was said in any form of Deebo's not getting traded. They don't want to trade Deebo. Also, the reports that were leading up to this and the reports that are coming after it are that the 49ers aren't going to move Deebo Samuel for a certain price. We talked about that heading into this press conference. The San Francisco 49ers are in the business of trying to get more value. And how do you do that? You say, we aren't trading Deebo, or we don't have any intention of trading Deebo. So that's how I really interpret this entire situation. Is I think the decisions have been made. I don't feel that Deebo Samuel will be coming back. So if I believe that's the truth and I am watching his press conference and the way he's communicating through that particular lens, then that would make me believe that this is posturing. This is trying to get more value for Debo Samuel. Maybe people are lowballing them because I think we all understand the draft is the deadline. We understand deadlines make everything happen in the NFL. There could be 95% of crap and it could be ongoing and just crap, 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 crap. But right before those deadlines hit, that's where everything gets done. That's where all these deals get ironed out. That's where guys cut like teams come in from left field, make offers that you were anticipating, things like that. So I'm interpreting that particular press conference again. He didn't want to talk about it because you don't talk about a player one who is clearly not negotiating with you and two, someone that you may be fielding offers for, and that these people are listening in to what you're saying. They're trying to get an like, what is this guy telling the public? Was he telling the average fan and things like that? Because they're gonna want to know and see if they let anything slip. I don't think I don't think John Lynch let anything slip in regards to the Deebo Samuel situation. The one quote that I did find a bit ironic from the entire situation was regarding, I don't think it was necessarily Deebo Samuel, but he did say, I'm trying to find it to make sure that I quote it properly. Um, Here it is. So John Lynch, I think he was talking about the quarterback and other things. He had moved off the Deebo Samuel topic, and he made a statement. He said, "When you play well here, you are rewarded." And then I think caught himself like mid sentence and said, "For the most part." So but you go back to, well, what does that mean? When you play well here, you are rewarded. Well, did Defo get rewarded? No, Defo got met with a trade. So you look at this Debo situation. Is Debo getting rewarded or is he getting met with a trade? So I found that to be a little bit ironic. I found that he also caught himself mid sentence when he was saying, when you play well here, you're rewarded for the most part. What do you need the for the most part for, especially considering the context of what we're talking about, the context of Debo Samuel, I believe not feeling like he was rewarded or going to be rewarded in which the way he wanted. Um, so I found that little part to be ironic. But other than that, I think John Lynch was, again, he was deflecting, he was non-committal. He used language that wasn't definitive that he could get out of. Again, I can't ever imagine wanting to move on from Debo. Yeah, no one could imagine that. I couldn't, again, we talked about this earlier. Like, I could never imagine climbing Mount Fiji. But hey, one day I might do it. I have no intention of climbing Mount Fiji, but one day I might do it. Like when you use those words, imagine, intention, it leaves it up for interpretation. So you're not locked in to anything. We understand there's timing involved with all of this. So I don't feel any better about the Debo Samuel situation after listening to John Lynch speak. Um, I do not, nothing was said. And again, the long-winded kind of addressing the media. Hey, this is an ongoing situation. Clearly, there's a lot playing out in the media. We can't talk about, and which I understand. I understand where John is coming from. To be 100% clear, I would probably be saying the same things if I was in John Lynch's uh, position where you are dealing with a fluid situation. It's not set in stone. I believe it is fluid. I believe things could change and sway one way or the other in the next 24, 48 hours. So I recognize where he's coming from, but because I recognize where he's coming from, it also makes me believe that Deebo Samuel is indeed up for a trade and he will ultimately get traded. Um, because I believe what's happening right now is posturing in the media for return. Corey says, I think it's basically bring us the whole bank or he isn't going anywhere. And this is right on time, Corey, with that comment. This is exactly the point I'm trying to make. Um, this is what he's doing. They don't have to trade Deebo. If they don't get an offer they want, they don't have to do anything. They could sit on him and force him to play this season. We all understand that the new CBA, or we're starting to understand the new CBA, makes it almost like impossible for players on a rookie deal to hold out because they will have no money um, when it's all said and done. So the 49ers have all the leverage here, and they know that. And them saying that we're not trading Deebo Samuel works to their benefit in multiple ways. One, if they end up ultimately keeping Deebo, then they will come out and say, that's what we told you we were going to do. But it also is a signal. Again, just like Deebo Samuel scrubbing his Instagram to me was a signal to other teams. John Lynch saying we're not really thinking about all that right now, and we're not really anticipating a potential trade right now with Deebo Samuel, and we don't want to talk about it. Blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Again, all the reports leading up to before and after, it just feels like they are posturing um, in regards to the whole Deebo Samuel situation, because I think it's crystal clear. Deebo has made his points known. He's made his feelings known that he does not want to return to the San Francisco 49ers. So honestly, I'm waiting for Tuesday. So tomorrow, I think, is going to be a potential day where we maybe wake up in the morning and boom, trade hits because we are right around the corner from the NFL draft. You do want to give yourself some time to be able to plan for the draft because let's be honest, if the San Francisco 49ers all of a sudden find themselves in the first round, high second round, they're going to want to be able to ensure that they have legitimate time with that reality to be able to be like, okay, well, who are we taking? Now they got their board set up and they're probably doing mocks and they're doing all that kind of stuff. They got it all figured out. But I'm going to say Tuesday or Wednesday is the day that we're really going to know. Tuesday or Wednesday is the day we're really going to know. If they don't get any first round draft picks, then no one gave enough for Deebo, and they're going to keep Deebo. And if they keep Deebo past day one of the draft, it's going to be very interesting to see how everything ultimately plays out, because that to me would indicate Deebo's probably not going anywhere. You have to get the capital now before day one of the draft. It has to happen, or else you lose value at that point. The 49ers are not going to be trading Deebo Samuel for 2023 picks. That's just not going to happen. It's not how it's going to work. So that's how I see it. Deebo, I believe, will successfully force his way off the team. And we're going to come back a week from now, and Deebo Samuel, I don't believe, will be on this team, which is absolutely wild. I don't, like I said, I felt this way since everything happened. Since, the second he scrubbed everything, this is how I felt. I felt like this was where it was leading to. It was leading towards a trade. Um, but the fact to like kind of wrap our heads around the fact that, damn, I think he is going to get traded is really crazy, because obviously the San Francisco 49ers are going into this year with two quarterbacks still on the roster And I'm not talking about Nate Sudfeld. I'm talking about Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance. So John spoke about both of those people. We finally got a Trey Lance is ready. We finally got that. It took a while, obviously John Lynch even spoke to that about like I don't know where these reports are coming from. I don't know how this stuff gets out there. But he basically said we do believe that Trey Lance is ready, which he says we believe Trey Lance is ready. Um, so that's, I guess, a good sign. But one of the things that they also talked about too was being prepared to keep Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster, which again, I don't think anyone wants. I don't think anyone wants a repeat of last year because I think we can all take a step back and probably say that a lot of the dysfunction stemming from this offseason is a trickle down effect of having both Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance on the roster. Now, of course, the 49ers are going to point to the positives of having Jimmy Garoppolo, which I'm sure there were. Again, Jimmy Garoppolo at that point was viewed as the best option to win and ultimately led them to the NFC Championship. From everything that we've heard, Jimmy Garoppolo has at least mentored Trey Lance in a sense. At least that's what we've heard. Um, and knowing Trey Lance is a young quarterback uh, that has all the tools, getting that mental workout is also beneficial. But it does, again, the way they are talking, way John Lynch was talking about Trey Lance today, it does indicate that they are moving forward with Trey Lance as the guy. But that doesn't mean Jimmy Garoppolo is going anywhere, which is interesting. I think I could speak for the faithful, whether you are, and we know we have a segmented fan base in regards to do you like Trey? Do you like Jimmy? I think we can all agree that whether you are on either side, you don't want to go into this year with two quote unquote starting quarterbacks. I believe it's a recipe for disaster. And you guys know if you tuned in with me last year, whether after the draft, before the draft, before training camp, at training camp, I was heavily leaning towards just give the keys to Trey Lance because what don't we want? We don't want a fractured locker room. We don't want a fractured, well, because it's human nature. You pick one. It's really hard to be like, I love everyone all the time. And especially when you have people competing and it's the quarterback position, it's the most important position people, I think, in the locker room side with the veteran presence. Now, even though we look at the tools of Trey Lance and his tools are exponentially better than Jimmy Garoppolo, but that experience, the leadership, the way I, it's so hard to quantify because when you get onto the field and you start seeing Jimmy throw interceptions to underneath linebackers, it's harder for people to be like that can't be a reason. That can't be the reason. So, but it is a situation that I don't want to redo. I think we can all agree. You can a quick yes or no if you want Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance on the active roster in 2022. Drop it in the chat. I'm gonna go ahead and assume no one wants that. Whether you are pro Trey or pro Jimmy, and you draw that line in the sand, regardless, I don't think this fan base wants to go through Jimmy and Trey part due. No, we're done with that. I think we can all agree that it's even gone too far at this point. Um, Cash the God says, so we believe what he says about Trey, but not Deebo. I love Trey. I feel he's ready, but can we really believe Lynch at this point? Well, this is the thing. Again, everything is posturing in a sense. Um, what's the he spoke to it. Like, I don't know how these reports get out. I don't know how why this becomes a narrative and why this becomes a talking point. So what does he do? He changed the script. He says, "Well, everyone says Trey Lance isn't ready. Well, guess what? Trey Lance is ready." And then just like that, boom. Now the narrative shifts. You move the goalposts a little bit. Now, does that mean that's truly what he believes? Maybe, maybe not. But we also understand it's spin season and you want to project a certain look and feel to your team that one, your fans can understand, but most importantly, what you're signaling to other front office representatives. Because the 49ers want to trade Jimmy. They do not want to keep him, and they do not want this situation to linger even further. But they're also smart enough to understand how to go about that. If they said, "Oh yeah, we're just holding on to him to eventually cut him," then no one is going to offer you anything. If you don't set the table that Jimmy can return in 2022, and you will do that, and all those types of things, teams will call your bluff. They will, and they'll just be, all right, we'll just wait for you to cut him. So that's the thing with it. And what he said about Deebo, he really didn't say anything about Deebo. He really didn't. And he straight up told us, I'm not saying anything about Deebo. He said, don't ask me about Deebo. Of course, they asked him about Deebo. And he still didn't really give anything, nothing definitive. So there wasn't anything that he said where you could definitively hold his feet to the fire. Nothing. So, and 100% Cash. We're smoke chasing right now. We are absolutely smoke chasing, and smash that like button if you haven't already. Just smash it because I think some stuff's going to shake out here in a couple days. I really do. But let's poll first. Let's poll first. Let's poll the chat. I want to hear from you guys. Do you guys believe that Deebo Samuel will get traded in the next 48 hours? Do you guys believe that? Yes or no? Do you guys believe that you think that Deebo Samuel will get traded in the next 48 hours? So ooh, we're already on a different spectrum. So far, 3 no's. Deebo is not getting traded. Then we get 3 yeses. Ooh, split off the bat. Then we get no, 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 no. Oh, ooh, ooh. More no's than I anticipated. Okay. Okay. So it is going to be a very interesting 48 hours for the San Francisco 49ers. I think, again, based on the timing, the posturing, it feels like they've signaled that you guys aren't offering us enough. You guys aren't offering us enough. And until you offer us enough, we're going to say that we have no intention of trading him and or he's going anywhere. But it's more heavily say he won't get traded and that he will be a 49er onto this year after this year. Um, so very, very interesting. Very interesting. Obviously, a lot of people aren't seeing it. I wish I was as optimistic as you guys, but I'm pretty nervous about it. I'm pretty nervous about it. I don't have good feelings, and I've learned in this process that I have to trust my gut. Obviously, we process things through logical and try to run it through ranges of emotions, but my gut is telling me that he's gone because I do believe the 49ers will ultimately get what they're asking for. I do believe the 49ers will ultimately get an offer where they can't say no, where they get multiple firsts potentially, and stuff like that. I talked about let's kind of talk about some of the other stuff. I kind of mentioned it a little bit on the first live I did before they started having more players come on. I think it's time to prepare for Alex Mack's retirement. Um, Again, if you know, I have been saying this from the very beginning of this offseason, uh, back in February. Um, I just did not have a good feeling about Alex Mack. I've gone on to other shows and said this. I know for a fact I was the only one saying this. No one, no one was mentioning the thought of Alex Mack retiring because why? Because you had Kyle talk about it at the owners' meeting. You had John Lynch talk about it at the combine. Um, all indications, right? Indications. We see Alex Mack returning. Well, that's fine, but I don't like the language that they used. I didn't like the language they used one bit. And as we know, we have seen this play before. We have seen them not make a retirement public prior to the draft. They did it with Joe Staley in order to be able to gain leverage, right? Again, we talk about the smoke and mirrors. This organization knows what they're doing. Again, they've referenced doing it, they've shown us they've done it. You had John Lynch come out and say, "Well, we went to Patrick Mahomes' pro day as a smokescreen, but maybe we shouldn't have just gone as a smokescreen. Maybe we should have actually scouted Patrick Mahomes a little bit more." John Lynch said that, so we have reference of this. So, and as each day gets closer to the draft, they make it abundantly clear that Alex Mack's probably done. Again, when he spoke about it today, and talked about it, there was I didn't see any ounce of optimism. I didn't see any ounce of optimism. Again, they keep deferring to the player. And when you keep deferring to the player, it's because you're deferring the question, and the player doesn't have to become available. And the player and the organization are clearly in lockstep. So I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting. I that makes center a huge priority. You even had John Lynch talk about Brunskill playing center, which I don't put it out of the range of possibility. You guys know I'm probably the biggest Brunskill truther that is in existence. Um, Along with people in that building, you'll never hear John Lynch or Kyle Shanahan talk badly about Brunskill, and there's a reason for that. But of course, fans are selective in regards to how they evaluate offensive linemen, and it's typically through a lens of when they lose. So I'm a big proponent of Brunskill. Again, I'll never not talk about this story. Last year, the second day of padded training camp practice, they kicked Brunskill from right guard, or they moved him from his starting right guard spot. They put him on the second unit as the center. They put Colton McKivitz at right guard. At the time when it happened, I was like, oh, Brunskill just got benched. And I watched it in real time. No, 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 no. It was a media showcase for Trey Lance. And when they put Brunskill and Trey Lance together, and those two were working together, that was the best we had seen the second team unit move all camp. and then they moved Brunskill back to right guard, and that was it. We only saw 1 day of center with Brunskill, but it happened to be Trey Lance's best day of training camp since I had been able to watch. So I found that to be interesting, and that's the benefit of having a guy like Brunskill. You can move him. He can play tackle. That tackle might be his best position, but he can play guard. He can play center. It's a phenomenal safety blanket to have. He doesn't get enough credit. Um, but I guarantee you, Daniel Brunskill is going to be starting on this offensive line. I just don't know where. He could be starting at right guard. He could be starting at center. You could have Aaron Banks at left guard. You could have a rookie. You could have Aaron Banks at right guard. You could have Jalen Moore. It's going to be interesting to see how the offensive line situation plays out because it does look like the writing's on the wall. Alex Mack will be retiring soon. I feel very confident in saying that. If I'm wrong, I'll definitely say, "Hey, I guess I was reading this wrong." He pulled a fast one on us. But again, as I'm tracking, it does not feel like Alex Mack will be coming back. Which again, we've already been feeling that way, and they're not because it's as simple as this. Like, if he was coming back, just say he's coming back. The only reason why you wouldn't say he's coming back is because he's potentially not coming back, and you don't want to show your cards. Like, if he's coming back, then he's coming back. You would have said it already. So clearly, at this point, the writing's there. I don't think Alex Mack is returning. However, we did hear from Mike McGlinchey today. It was good to hear from Mike. Mike is in good spirits. I'm really optimistic for Mike. Really optimistic for Mike. Realized I just missed some super chats. Let me go back. Shout out the kid Eric. I'll hop into Mike in a second. He said, plot twists. Deebo just did this to mess with everyone. Just how Lynch and Kyle did on the Mac Jones situation. They're just let everything steamroll. That would I would love that to be the case. I would love for Deebo Samuel to tweet out, "I just punked you, and I wanted to see who the real ones were," and then signs a $125 million contract over 5 years. That would be fantastic. But I believe that's probably the most unlikely outcome of this entire situation. Like, imagine putting your boss in the position that Deebo just did with John Lynch. Did you see how uncomfortable John Lynch was that entire press conference? That's a pre-draft press conference. They're supposed to be talking about the draft. They're supposed to be talking about potential prospects and updates on the health of certain players and things like that. And it's supposed to be a positive kind of light conversation because we understand the general manager isn't going to tip his hand one way or the other to begin with. So it's a bit of a just kind of like a, hey, how are you guys going? Clearly the new season's about to start. The fact that he had to go on that long-winded opening rant, had to open up. I've never seen that before, where a GM goes in depth into saying, please don't ask me questions about Deebo Samuel. I'm not answering them. And saying it multiple times in multiple different directions, in multiple different ways. Like, to put your boss that you're trying to get millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars from just to mess with people. Like I said, I'm filing that. It's a range of outcome, but I'm filing that all the way in the back of the filing cabinet as potential ranges of outcomes. I do not think Deebo Samuel is messing with anyone. If anything, Deebo Samuel is messing with them to get the check and get traded. There's clearly a specific way that they're going about this. From Deebo's side, they're making it abundantly clear that he is not coming back or doesn't want to come back And I just don't think I don't think I would love for that. Like I said, plot twist, I would love for that. I wouldn't mind it. Wake up, oh, just kidding. Debo Samuel signs uh, you know, like I said, 5 year, $125 million, $65 million guaranteed. We're all like, that's a lot of money, but for sure, Debo's back. Again, I file that under least possible ranges of outcomes at this point. Um, Cash of God says, "Bing bong, f your life. When these dogs in your front yard, huh? Just know upstairs I'm going hard. Bing bong." Brian says, I think everyone is thinking two checkers with Debo and his agent. In my opinion, they're trying to hijack free agency early, and Debo is willing to be the bad guy to get free market. Oh, 100%. I think this is exact that these guys are like I've said from the very beginning. When people talk about Debo Samuel's social media stuff and them really just discrediting it and discrediting anyone who gave it any merit or any weight, it's because they were thinking checkers. If you again, I talk about this all the time. There will be social reporters one day. I would consider myself a social reporter. I don't consider myself a journalist. I don't consider myself like a reporter or nothing like that. I'm a social reporter, meaning I track social media trends and I analyze them to be able to build profiles of essentially behavior patterns. Um, so, like I talk about, there aren't a lot of people who do what I do. There are not. There are not a lot of people who are able to do that on a long form scale. I can sit here and tell you I've seen every single post that is coming from Debo Samuel since January of 2019 before he was a San Francisco 49er. I've seen how he posted as a prospect trying to get drafted. I've seen how he's interacted and engaged since after that. And I've seen the evolution in how he's changed um, with just his social media accounts. People don't look at social media like that unless that is your ultimate goal or what you are trying to do. If you are trying to build profiles and you are trying to understand how these guys move on social media and what it all means, particularly a reason why when the whole George Kittle thing with Brandon Ayuk popped up, it was I don't know why everyone, I understand the timing of it with the whole like white and I will tell you right now as someone who's in the content business, the two hottest the two hottest players to post right now, the two hottest players to post are Nick Bosa and Brandon Ayuk. Why are they the two hottest players to post right now? Because of Deebo Samuel. Because of the reactions, the emotional reactions that fans have when you show Brandon Ayuk right now. When you show Brandon Ayuk right now, what do you hear? Wide receiver one. That's our new number one. Look at him. He's with Trey. That's wide receiver one. Okay. You show Bosa. What happens? Oh, Bosa would never hold out. Bosa would never do this. This is why we're going to pay Bosa. Like, you have to be able to analyze and understand these things. So when George posted, again, if you are able to analyze and track George and not view everything in a vacuum, George posts like that all the time. George takes my posts, he takes other fan pages' posts. If he's in it or if he wants to show love to a teammate, that's what he does. He puts it on a story and he tags them. Literally has years and years and years of posting habits that show that. That's why, like me, like when everyone made a big deal about it, I just was like, I'm not. Clearly, people feel a certain way about this, but I'm just going to step back because I don't think it's anything because I've seen him post like this for a long time. And then when he came out and he refuted it, I exactly agree. I really don't think it's anything. Um, so you just have to be able to understand what you're looking at. You have to build this. This isn't. You can't view these social media posts in a vacuum. You just can't. You just can't. You just can't. You have to use years and years of stringing together the entire. You have to understand how these guys move. You just have to. Corey says, but would you say if he doesn't get traded, that the chances of him signing an extension go up dramatically because he does have the money to sit? I don't know. I don't know. Um, I don't think it's more likely. I just think it becomes a situation where the 49ers either one didn't get the compensation they wanted to get him with, or I don't this feels like a divorce to me. This feels like a divorce. This feels like an ugly breakup. Again, John Lynch talked about this. These things you normally there's a football code. There is a code amongst players where this type of stuff you literally don't let it hit the media. You don't let it hit the fans. You normally keep these things behind closed doors because when you let it out, you see the talk that comes from it. You see how instantly certain people just be like, "All right, we'll just trade you then. We don't care about you." We already got people burning Deebo Samuel jerseys, and that was days ago. Um, like there is an unspoken bond between players where you don't air this stuff out, but it's getting aired out. So when I think you're going through that situation, which again, I think we have to quantify, not only with Deebo Samuel, but you look across the league and contract negotiations, this isn't how you negotiate really towards getting a deal. Because Deebo Samuel knows if he kept his mouth shut and was patient and they worked towards getting a deal done in August or July, that's probably when it was going to happen. But now he's saying he's just like, nope, nope, I am not doing it. Not doing it. Get me out of here. And he's making it very kind of ugly in a sense. So I'm not optimistic about it. I'm personally not. Like I see it as just totally not optimistic about it. Um is there a chance that he signs an extension? Of course, because he's on the team and, are they really going to hold him out? Is he really going to hold out? Because I believe there's a trigger that happens if he holds out. So it's in both parties at this point. It's in both parties' best interest to just move on. It's been crystal clear. You see it in the fan base. Half the fan base is over it, at least the ones that are commenting and engaging with content. If you're just focusing on the people who engage, which is a lot of people, you could draw a line down the middle and say half people are saying screw Deebo and half the people are saying screw the 49ers. Like, and that's a pretty big discrepancy when you really think about it. Gammon says, Brad, SDS type no to Deebo being traded because we are optimistic. We think it's less likely that a team will deliver the ransom 49. I think, yeah, I agree. I think I forgot the way I proposed the question. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. So I apologize for that. But you're correct. Thank you for making sure we're on point. Shout out Gammon. Appreciate it, my guy. Um, so let's see. Gammon also says if you allow Deebo to negotiate at year 3, then you set the precedent for BA and Lance and other rookies on the 49ers bigger picture here. There's a lot of precedent involved. There's a lot of precedent involved. Um, there's a lot of precedent involved here. Again, when it becomes public, it's a lot harder. It's a lot harder to manage this stuff. It's a lot harder to be able to spin what you want to spin and set the perception for your fan base. Rather, now it's out of control. And again, as someone, teams who have robust PR departments, the 49ers hired one of the best PR guys in the business. From the New York Jets. So he's running their PR now. There's a reason there's robust PR departments within these teams because it's about controlling the message, controlling the narrative. You don't want people to spin stuff out of control if you can prevent it. So that's typically why they don't want this stuff getting out. And again, Gammon's right. What does this mean for Bosa? What does this mean for Brandon Ayuk? What does it mean for Trey Lance and everyone else who comes down the line? Are the San Francisco 49ers now going to have to look themselves in the mirror and say, maybe we need to adjust and or evolve our negotiation tactics? Because maybe that is a positive that comes from this. At least that's all I can ask for. Again, I'm not in those rooms. I'm not in those conversations. I don't know all the context, but I've heard enough from 49er players that this team, specifically Parag Marate, is very difficult to negotiate with. So maybe, just maybe, it's an idea. You don't have to listen to me. I'm just a guy in my new pod studio. Let's go. We're in the new pod studio. Can't wait to build this thing out, by the way. Cannot wait to build this place out. But huge squirrel. I squirreled myself. I completely distracted myself. I forgot what point I was going to make. A life of an ADHD brain. Always fun. Oh, Parag. I was talking about Parag. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time to evolve. Maybe it's time to look at the past, see how we've done things in the past. And, if you're ultimately going to pay someone, maybe we don't piss them off, then pay them. Maybe try it. Try it one time. Just try it once. Try it once. Try it once. Surprise. Like, who's next? Bosa? Bosa's next? Okay. Give them a good deal at first. See what happens. They might be so taken off guard that you gave them a respectable deal right off the bat. They might just accept it. Maybe that would work to your benefit. I mean, come on. Come on. Just some self-reflection. Just some self-reflection at a certain point. Because we're starting to hear the same things. We're starting to hear the same things. And now it feels like it's led to, now again, it could be completely deeper than money. It could be completely deeper than money. This situation could go further than just being money, which is what we've been indicated to. It's a little bit deeper than money. Okay, well, what does that mean? We don't know what that means. So we just have to guess. But hey, we can go back and listen to the way Frank Gore talked about being in contract negotiations twice with Parag. We can go back to the way Kittle was in negotiations. We can go back to when Deebo was in negotiations. We can go back to when Jimmy Ward was in negotiations. We have plenty of players who say the same things. So at a certain point, when you're dealing with alpha males and you're dealing with people who are, let's face it, ego. There's a ton of ego in this sport. And when you don't come correct, I guess, in this particular instance, I think we're kind of seeing the backlash from that. I would love to see an evolution there. Uh, Again, I'm not privy to how negotiations go. I'm not privy to the conversations and how they happen. I understand negotiations, especially when talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars, um, is going to be a long road. It's going to be a back and forth. It's not going to be amazing and smooth sailing. That's not at all what I'm saying. Not at all. Just maybe, just one time, just one time, show up, say, "Hey, Bosa, we really want you to be a Niner for a long time. So we're going to give you a respectable deal right away. We're going to cut out 3 months worth of time of lowballing you, and we're just going to give you a decent offer, and let's see where we go." Would love that, but who knows? Who knows at this point? But I don't want to talk about Prague anymore. Um, what else do we want to talk about? What else do we want to talk about? And I mean, this is a good point. We have paid guys. We have paid guys. But that's the point. Why do we have to piss them off before we pay them? Like, why do we have to have Trent Williams like calling Kyle and being like, "Man, I'm about to sign with the Chiefs," unless you tell Parag to do something. Like, why does that have to happen? Like, why can't we just be like, "Hey, we want to keep you, Trent, so we're gonna pay you." That's it. All right. I've seen it. I'm seeing some draft talk. Let's do it. Let's talk draft. Let's talk draft. Let's good. Let's switch gears to the draft. I like that. I like that. Dylan Parham from Memphis is becoming someone that could be a target. He was in Santa Clara not too long ago, which could be a potential replacement for Alex Mack. Dylan was someone who stood out to me at the NFL Combine when I was there in person, just from like a physical build standpoint. You look at the body, and you're like, oh yeah, like that's an athletic person. Again, we called him. What did we call him? Um, what did we call Parham? Thick boy, something like that. That because that boy thick. That's a thick ass boy. Parham is double C'd up, but that translates to being having a good base, athletic base, bend in your base, all those types of things. But we had a lot of fun with that at the combine because Cole Strange would love the idea of Cole Strange. If you gave me this option, I'm going Lewis Seen at 35. I like Kyle Hamilton a lot. But if you can get me Lewis Seen at 35, I'm gonna be honest. Like Deshaun Goldson is one of my favorite players to ever play for the 49ers. And when I look at Lewis, I'm just like, bro, you give me all the Deshaun Goldson vibes. Like he's like Deshaun Goldson, but with a higher athletic profile, like that can play in coverage. And I'm just like, and because Deshaun Goldson had my heart, I'm like, I really like Lewis. Like I really do. And if you can get him at that value of 35, go for it. Go for it. And if this is how it played out, I'm going Lewis at 35. Um, because again, he can rock you, he can play in the box, he can play the deep third, he could play multiple spots. Um, so I'd love to see him at 35. If that was, hey, we get that 10, we get that 35, we get pick 69, Elijah Moore. 49ers are cooking. 49ers are cooking. Talk about how Lynch said he's happy with where they're at so far this offseason. I mean, again, it's posturing, right? They're not going to come out and say we're not happy or we failed this offseason because I would imagine the inability to move Jimmy Garoppolo could be perceived as a failure internally. Now, not necessarily because of their like actual doing, but then you look at them keeping him and they're like, well, ultimately, you guys are responsible for keeping him. After you decided to trade for Trey Lance, and it really feels like the locker room said, "No, you're not getting rid of Jimmy." It didn't feel like the front office or the coaching staff said, "We're not getting rid of Jimmy." It felt like the players said, "You better not get rid of Jimmy, or you're gonna have some problems on your hands." Um, I think that's part of the problem. It's one of the good things and part of the hard things of having a locker room that is there's an open line of communication. It's not a my way or the highway thing. I don't think by any sense. Now I'll be obviously Kyle Shanahan has his ways, and there is a sense of my way or the highway. But also, too, if you have enough team leaders coming to Kyle and being like, "Listen, this is how we see it. This is like this." I think he'll be more than open to listening to that. So it's just tough, man. It's tough. It's been a hard off season. Whether they say it wasn't or it was, like, it was a hard off season. It's taken a toll. If it's taken a toll on us as content creators, if it's taken a toll on us as fans, imagine being responsible for that. Imagine like you are looked at as the reason why thousands of people stress about football. Like at the end of the day, it's football. Why are we shouldn't be stressing about it? But it's quite stressful. Um, let's see. Sky Moore, especially there. If you get I think if you can get Sky Moore in the early second, that would be fire. If we're staying at 61, it has to be center. It has to be a center guard combo. One of the positives about this interior line class has great fluidity with kind of those center guard prospects. So you can find guys who are going to fit a hole at center or guard, and be really really well. A guy that I just watched, that I'm really upset that I just watched, is Zach Tom out of Wake Forest. He's an offensive tackle. He's about 6'4", 310 pounds. I see him profile best as a guard, but I also see some of those Rashawn Slater type skill sets, like where Rashawn Slater got degraded for his size. When I was like, Rashawn Slater's the best offensive lineman in this class, and he's better than Sewell. I was emphatic with saying he's better than Sewell. I thought Sewell was a good prospect. I just thought Rashawn Slater was far and away the more technically gifted, athletically gifted tackle prospect that can match up with elite edge and do all those types of things. People just focused on how tall he was. And I was very emphatic about saying Rashawn Slater was much better than Penei Sewell. And it wasn't to degrade Penei, it was to highlight Slater. And I feel confident that after my first full year, at least 1 year, that it does look like I was correct. It does look like Slater is the better prospect. Doesn't mean that Sewell's not good. It just looks like Slater, the technique, the athleticism that he brings is elite. So Zach Tom is a guy that he also played center. Good, exactly. He also played center. He plays left tackle. He can play guard. He's a guy who can shift up and down the offensive line. I think he profiles to being a better interior offensive lineman. But again, I don't pigeonhole him saying he can't play tackle in the NFL. He can play tackle in the NFL, and he can be a smaller tackle. But I also see him, like, with the way the 49ers roster's built, um, the way the roster's built, I could see him shifting into guard or even center. potentially. He's just really quick, really quick, really good feet, really good base, all of it, all the things that I need in an offensive lineman. Really, really like it. I'm going to look through some of your guys' other options that you are throwing out there. I'm kind of behind a little bit, and I don't want to skip a bunch of people. I'm trying to go back a little bit. Run a mock? Ooh, we could mock. We could mock, potentially. Maybe. Maybe not. Maybe. Cam Jurgens, 100%. Love him. But I see him more as a center. He can play. He can play. Guard, I think, but I see him more as a center. Let's see what else. I haven't watched Jason Poe yet. I've heard about Jason Poe, and I believe the reason why he is kind of becoming a popular name is because he tested well. I haven't watched him play, so I can't really give you uh, any information on that. Oh, this is terrible. RIP. Good Morning Football. K Adams carried that show. K Adams was legit, so that sucks for them. Uh, if you can get George Karlaftis at 32, that's a no-brainer. No-brainer. I thought this was funny. Justin says, "How about when Lynch said it's going to be a boring first day? Our fans aren't used to that. Usually, a lot of action. Uh, could be again. We'll see." Yeah, I heard that too. I heard that too. Let's see what else. Trying to catch up. Or I'm in the back trying to catch up. Yeah, Luke Fortner, I definitely see as a day two guy. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if he slid kind of day three. Uh, I think he's good. I think he's capable. I think he's got really good size. He can dig you out. He can do all those kinds of things. He can get to second level. He just doesn't have that athleticism that I'm particularly looking for. He's a little bit bigger, a little bit stockier, a little bit more lumbering, which necessarily isn't a bad thing. And he could be successful totally in the NFL. I'm just after the athletic. I'm after the traits of the offensive lineman. And Luke Fortner, he's good. I could work with it, but I would like to see someone else. Is Treader an easy option? He is, but the 49ers don't have any money. So I think that's part of it. I think they have the lowest available cap space in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that came out. Oh, don't even get me started. You think I abandoned Brian Burns? Yeah, right. Yeah, right. I'm about to I'm about to trade for Brian Burns right now. What do I think about trading down from 10 and taking Linderbaum? I would have no problems with that. I still think, I think you're starting to see there's a lot of traction for Zion Williams. Zion Williams, again, went through this process, had a huge, huge, uh, great draft process. Linderbaum hasn't been as talked about as much. And from what I've watched, he's good. It's not that he's not good. But maybe there's just something that Zion is doing in the interview process that is kind of elevating him over Linderbaum. So I wouldn't be surprised if Zion is actually the first center to go. Again, I look at top tier centers. Really, you're hard pressed to find a center go in the top 15 picks. Um, so that's why I kind of feel like from a positional value standpoint, he's gonna drop. They might look at the talent and be like, "Oh, he's talented. He's gonna be a day one starter." But guys like Garrett Bradbury, who I really liked coming out of NC State, I think had a little bit higher athletic traits than Linderbaum, but he was considered as a top center. He didn't go. I think he went in the 20s to the Vikings. You're going to see interior offensive linemen, no love, no love. And we need to change that. But I do incorporate it into the way that stuff kind of the way interior offensive lineman is valued. Yeah, Panthers said no to Baker. They said no to Baker. Did someone finally talk? Did someone come to the table? Oh no, they left it on. Thank God I didn't wait. Thank God I did not wait. That's funny. Did I say I think I said the wrong Zion. Zion Johnson. I think I said Zion Williamson. Wrong sport. You come at the king, you best not miss. So honestly, I think it all comes down to finding the correct trade partner. Finding the correct trade partner, finding the compensation, getting the draft capital, whether it's a player in return plus draft capital. Deebo is not going for cheap. Just want to make that crystal clear. Deebo is not going for cheap. And if he doesn't go for cheap, then, or I'm saying if he doesn't go for a huge price tag, I 100% imagine that he stays on the team. But someone's going to pay. That's the problem. That's the problem is someone will pay. Look at the landscape of the NFL. Just look at it. Look at the moves that have been made. Look at the quarterbacks that have been traded. Look at the movement. Look at everything. There is nothing that I see that would indicate that a team is not going to offer a ransom for Deebo Samuel. Again, we ran the exercise earlier. Is Deebo Samuel a top 3 pick in this draft class? If you took him as he is now and just dropped him in the draft, where does Deebo Samuel go? I guarantee you the Jags are taking Deebo Samuel with the number 1 overall pick. Deebo Samuel's going number 1 overall. They're lauding it as the best pick in the class. They're lauding it as the best player in the class. So then again, now take that logic and apply it to what you're going to get in return. Well, he's in his prime. He's 26 years old. Now, does he need to get paid? 100%. But that comes with the territory. I don't think that's going to factor into the compensation that the 49ers get. Now, sometimes you'll see teams make trades. We saw Brock Osweiler traded essentially for draft picks just so someone else would take his contract. I don't think that any of that's going to be in play here. If you're getting Deebo, you have to give us your best offer. Then you got to pay him. But you paying him, that's not on us. This is it. You send me the offer. That's it. So I really do think that ultimately a team will get desperate. Again, we're not even talking about a team like the Jags or the Detroit Lions. We're not mentioning their name because we're not seeing it as the best fit. But it's important to remember that there could be some team that we aren't even thinking that is willing to give everything to get Deebo Samuel. Again, a proven commodity, a proven superstar. That's worth more than one first round pick. And the 49ers are reporting that they're going to need more than for one first round pick. I like the deal of Amon-Ra St. Brown, number 2 overall, and 33. Give me 3. Do it. I like it. Imagine Detroit ain't had nothing to celebrate. They they like Amon-Ra. They do. I love Amon-Ra. I would, I would be a little hesitant, but just think about the juice that Deebo brings. Deebo has juice that no other prospect can bring you. There's not one. There's not one player in this draft who you could take as a rookie, pick him up out the draft, put him on your roster, and instantly becomes a team leader. Instantly sets the tone for an offense, instantly sets a physicality level for your entire group. There is not one offensive player who can do that as a rookie. As a rookie, again, we have to start rationalizing why Deebo is worth what he's worth. There is not one rookie who could do that. That then therein lies why he is valuable and why he is more valuable than multiple first round picks. He's a veteran. He's in his prime. He's proven and he's unique. All those things make you valuable. All those things, we don't just stack production and go, oh, well, they have the same. No. There's so many more ancillary things that go into value. There's not just 3 little charts where, well, he's got that yardage and this touchdowns and this. No. You talk about Deebo as a leader. You talk about the physicality he plays and the way it spreads to other people. Like, those are things that you pay for. Again, why do you meet with prospects? Why do you spend all this time on trying to figure out who they are? So you don't wind up with Kadarius Toney. Again, if Kadarius Toney had a similar vibe and persona to Deebo, they would not be trading him. But because Kadarius Toney is a red flag, like you could literally, he's a walking red flag in regards to his personality, which is why he's now getting floated in a trade after 1 year. Again, you can go and draft Kadarius Toney. Look at the way he moves. Look at all this. Look at all that. But is he Deebo? Does he have that mentality? No. Nope. And speaking of Kadarius, I do not want him near my roster. Do not. I know a lot of fans have proposed it. Do not even think about putting Kadarius Toney in this locker room. Do not. I'm sure we have more, but the one rapper that I'm perfectly fine with is Jeff Wilson. That's it. Do not give me that cancer. No. And again, this is coming from someone who loved him heading into draft season. But again, part of the evaluation, who are these people? Who are they as humans? Oh, Kadarius Toney as a human doesn't seem like a very good one. So I don't want that. It looks like I'm perfectly right. I play GM all the time. I play Dynasty. I drafted Kadarius Toney because I got immense value with Kadarius. I think I got Kadarius Toney at the end of the second round rookie draft in my Dynasty. I took him because I'm like, well, his his skill set is much better than being a late second and dynasty rookie draft. So I took him, but I took him the whole time knowing I did not want him. So I tried to trade Kadarius all season, and I almost did, but then he got hurt, and then that killed that value. But at the end of the day, the same thing remains. He doesn't have the personality. And I don't want that type of personality in my locker room because I value those types of things. The same way the 49ers tell you they value Jimmy Garoppolo's leadership, the same way they value his presence, the same way they value who he is. Again, talent isn't the ultimate thing in the NFL. And I know it's weird to say that. I know it's weird to say that. It's weird to say that out loud, but because football is such a mentally driven, mentally taxing game, if you aren't right mentally, it does not matter how talented you are. Just ask Sam Darnold. Just ask Kadarius Tony. Um, would keeping Deebo negatively affect the locker room? See, I don't. That's like keeping a disgruntled employee. You know what I mean? It's like keeping a disgruntled employee. Um, what type of effort are you going to get from him? Especially if you're trying to make him play on like that $3 million deal. He is not stepping on the field. So if you're keeping Debo, I think Debo doesn't have any beef with his teammates. I think all his teammates have his back. I think again, you heard from guys today talk about how Debo who said it? I'll pull the quote for you so I don't mess it up. But someone said today, I think it was McGlinchey. McGlinchey said, quote, Debo Samuel is one of our best players, if not our best player. There you have it. That was from Mike McGlinchey. Mike wore the captain's patch one day, at one particular time on his chest. Um, he knows those types of things. And again, when one of your best players, if not best player, is at war with a front office and you let this get uglier and uglier and uglier, these are people. These are people. At a certain point, you can only do your job so much without feeling like you're getting distracted. So, my answer to this question is keeping Debo would have a negative effect because it would be a distraction. It would be a distraction of putting in the work, working towards getting a sixth ring, doing those types of things. It becomes a charade. It becomes just like Jimmy Garoppolo became a distraction. Did you notice how every single player that went up to the podium today was asked multiple questions about Debo Samuel? So take the same philosophy with how these guys are consistently asked about the same player day in and day out. They give the same responses, yet are asked the same questions day in, day out. Same response, same question, or same question, same response, same question, same response. Same thing would happen with Debo. Now, all these players are having to sit up there and talk about Debo Samuel nonstop. It would just be uh, that's why I feel like if he's made it this abundantly clear that he's out, like, yeah, you can play hardball 100%. You could. He technically has no leverage, but clearly has leverage. Um, and he could theoretically, the 49ers could say, sorry, Debo, you're playing here next year. Does that mean they're getting a deal done? I mean, he told them not to get a deal done. There's rumors like floating around that Debo's like ignoring calls. Like it's like He's doing everything in his power to say, "I am done. I am done." He's doing everything in his power to say, "If you keep me, that is a terrible mistake." And again, we've seen the 49ers play roulette with their leaders. We've seen that happen before. And I don't want to do it again. I don't. We kept Jimmy. Yeah, the ultimate outcome was good, I guess. But I felt like a lot of stuff could have happened with that. So I just I think it's run its course. I think we would all agree it's run its course. So get what you can. And again, if it's not suitable, then yeah, you're not going to trade him. If you're not getting a haul, then don't trade him. Don't do it. And I would understand that. But that means you have to work double hard to correct it and get him paid and make it so things are heading in the right direction. Because right now Debo's not doing that. He's not engaging. He's not trying to be a part of that. So at what point do you just say, "All right, clearly," because again, John Lynch talked about it. He talked about the code and it was broken. It was broken. You try to keep again, you try to keep the information of negotiation, um, and those things behind closed doors. That's just how it works. That's the nature of the beast, and he did not do that. And so you have to understand that context. You have to understand it's not just him like publicly being unhappy. It's him like looking them in the face and saying, "I'm going to go against what we both know is the norm because I want out." Like again, fans are like, "Oh, he scrubbed his social media. What's the big deal? Oh, he said this. Oh, he said that." Yeah, it's a big deal because you don't say that stuff. You don't do that. You broke the code. And again, you're breaking the code for a reason because you want out. So I don't know. Dolphins fans, I know we talk a lot about the Jets, but I think the Dolphins fans have been like, I hopped into one of their spaces, and they're talking about how like Mike McDaniel's trying to get Deebo. Um, could you imagine trading for Tyreek Hill and Deebo Samuel in the same offseason? Um, so I don't know. Again, the best case scenario is a bidding war. Best case scenario is that there's a bidding war generated and that the 49ers ultimately wind up with a deal that they cannot refuse. And once they get that deal that they cannot refuse, they accept it, they cut ties, and they focus on rebuilding the culture of that locker room. Because let's face it, clearly something went happens. Clearly things changed last year. Clearly. That whole kumbaya feeling that we would always talk about, like, oh, great culture, great this, great that. It doesn't feel like that anymore. I'm a big feel guy. I'm a big intuition person. Um, so I don't have good feelings. I don't have good feelings for Kyle. I don't have good feelings for John. Like I'm nervous of where this is headed. I'm nervous because what happens if the 49ers go below 500 next year? And you have aging veterans like Kittle and you have Trent and I don't like the direction that this is going. I don't. Haven't liked it since they decided to keep Jimmy. And again, I understand, but ultimately, this is why I didn't want it because of the potential of creating a rift, which seemingly feels like there's a rift. Um, and it's harder to mend that rift once it's been split open. And yeah, Jimmy Ward. So it's just, I'm not going to go there. I'm going to try to keep it optimistic as best I can. But you know, it's not making me feel great. It's not not making me feel great. Um, so ultimately, I believe Deebo gets moved. Ultimately, I don't know if Jimmy gets moved. I heard him speaking and kind of going on that media tour, and it felt like he was purposefully saying he's not ready to throw because I think it's crystal clear. I think Jimmy and his camp want to get cut. They want to get cut. They want that 7.5 million guaranteed. They want to get cut and go sign where they want to sign. They don't want to have to deal with like this trade scenario thing going on. So I just I woo, it is crazy to think about. It's crazy to think about all the drama that's going on right now. Like, and whether we like to admit it or not and wrap our heads around it or not, Jimmy Garoppolo was the leader in that locker room. Let me say that again. Jimmy Garoppolo was the leader in that locker room. Now, he might not have been the most talented player in that locker room, but he was the leader. And guess what? Kyle decided he didn't want the leader anymore. What happens now as a result? Now we're seeing this weird trickle down effect of, again, you force people to choose, you force people to pick. Guess what? Everyone landed on Jimmy, which means I take that as they're going against Kyle because Kyle handpicked Trey. So it's just, we'll see. We'll see. I don't want to go too far down that road. I'm getting anxiety just thinking about it. Um, but I think I think at the end of the day, we'll potentially hear in the next day or two that a trade will go down for Deebo Samuel. Um, so that's what I'm bracing for. I'm bracing for a trade. Um, I'm expecting the 49ers to be busy on day one of the NFL draft, whether it's a draft day trade, whether it's a trade that's announced tomorrow or the next day. I'm definitely leaning towards Deebo getting traded. And I think what is occurring right now in the media is the smoke. It's the posturing. It's we've gotten deals, we've received deals. Um, we've probably worked it out to the point where some are acceptable. Um, but now it's time to see who really who really wants Deebo, who really wants to pay for Deebo. Because as we know, Deebo is going to go to the highest bidder. And the 49ers really don't have a need to do right by Deebo. He's the one who requested a trade. Okay, well, the grass isn't always greener. And if I'm the 49ers and I put myself in the 49ers shoes, okay. Like, I think, if I put myself in the 49ers shoes, Debo's told us all that he needs to tell us to the point where I'm like, okay, you know, if there were different avenues that were met, we could have resolved this and maybe we could have uh made this better, and we could have come to a deal ultimately in the end. But with how it's going, how it's going, and the way it's going, I if I'm on the front office, I'm like, all right, let's go. Give me the offers. Give me the offers and let's get him off this team. Because again, you can't have dissension in the ranks like that. So, hey, I get it from both sides. I get where Debo's coming from, and I get where the 49ers are coming from. But it doesn't change the fact that I don't like it. It doesn't change the fact that I don't love it. Um, so yeah, that's kind of where I land. I think if I'm in the 49ers front office and we're having these conversations, like I'm talking, with people who are on the football business sides of things, we're having the conversations that yes, it is time to move on. We could have reconciled if we were able to keep things behind closed doors, but at this point and how it's progressed in the media, I believe it's too far gone to the point where you bring him back, you pay him, you're now setting a precedent that a player can go into the media and basically embarrass you like this and just do all this sub posting and again refuting of other reports, all that. Like at a certain point, if I'm in that front office, I'm just like, all right, he's gone. Like, we would have loved to sign him. We would have loved to allow him to go through the negotiation, but that didn't happen. And with where we stand right now, he's gone. Let's trade him. Let's move him. That's it. It's over. Let's get what we can. Is it a crappy situation that we're about to lose arguably one of our best players? Of course it is. But luckily for us, he's at the peak of his value. He's due for a contract extension, and we're going to have teams bidding on him. So let's get the most that we can. We don't have first round picks to begin with. And let's go. Let's retool, rebuild. Let's do it. Rip the band-aid off. That's how I would feel if I was a 49er executive. I would be like, let's go. Let's get this done. Let's go. Is he going to be a Jet? Is he going to be a Panther? Again, I'm like, all right, let me call the Panthers GM. Let me see if I can get Deebo and Jimmy to the Panthers. Let me see if I can get Six and Brian Burns, maybe Robbie Anderson. That works for me. Then I'll take Six. Then I'll trade back. Then I'll recoup more picks. Then we'll trade. Oh, dog, we're working. We working. You give me Six and BB, you immediately eradicate edge need. Then you're able to take Six and you trade back, turn it into more assets. You have Robbie Anderson if you want to kind of just be that veteran placeholder. Actually, Robbie Anderson, I think his skill set fits well with Trey Lance. So hey, you know how it goes. We need running backs too. This is going to be an interesting week, ladies and gentlemen. This is going to be an interesting week. So, as you know, the second anything goes live, a trade, anything, we're going to go live for it. So make sure you are subbing. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you hit that bell button, especially this week, because lives are going to be like we're popping on when anything goes down. So anything goes down, we're on. We're going live. We're going to talk about it. We're going to try to make sense of it, all that kind of stuff. So make sure that bell's on. Obviously, we're going to be posting content on YouTube pertaining to these situations. So it's a moving target at this point. It is absolutely a moving target at this point. And I agree. Let this end. I'm tired. Very tired. Very, very tired. What's the latest they can trade Deebo? Um, I mean, I feel like once you get out of that top 10, I feel like once you get out of that top 10, it's going to make it a lot harder. I feel like it's going to make it a lot harder. If you don't get one of those top 10 picks, um, because I think the 49ers have an opportunity to recoup a lot. I really do. I think they have an opportunity. When we say King's ransom, like I think we're talking King's ransom. Like I think they mean it. Like I think multiple firsts, maybe more than that. Like arguably like record breaking stuff. Like that's how high I think it could be. I think Deebo could go for a record breaking haul in regards to wide receivers because again, how often do wide receivers of his caliber become available in his prime where he doesn't have the wear and tear yet, or at least the perceived wear and tear. So, but if they make it out of the day one and top 10 goes by, Jets pick, not feeling great about it. But I would have, like I said, I would imagine it actually, if it were to go down, I would actually imagine it going down in the next day or two. Um, See, this is a trade where I don't know if I would love this because who we taking at one? I would want to trade back, but does anyone want to trade up? I feel like this is the worst year to have a. It's a worse year. It's a worse year to have the number one. I'm not sure what this is. I might have to go look for it, read it over. But apparently, Jabo. So it's supposed to be Debo. Jabo. Oh, it's been a long day. Basically, there's an article where he's with XL Sports where he signed a new contract in 2021 to expand his brand and help him invest even when CAA is in charge of the NFL contract. I'm just so focused on Jabo more than anything else. We can't trade Deebo, but we can trade Jabo. So be prepared for anything. Be prepared. So I'm prepared for it. I'm waiting for it. We'll see. You know, again, if he doesn't get traded, how are we going to feel about that? Are we going to feel good that he didn't get traded? Because now it's just awkward. Now it's just like, I would say like 2/3 of the fan base have made it known that they're annoyed with Deebo and annoyed with the situation. So what happens if you don't trade Deebo? Like, it's just like, why can't we have nice things? Why can't we have nice things? I prefer Abo over Deebo. Just saying. Just saying. So we'll find out. I think I'm about to hop off, but you guys know the vibes. I will be back on. Anything happens, anything breaks, whatever. I expect a bunch of stuff to come out. Especially start paying attention to start paying attention to the reports. Start paying attention to the reports. Start paying attention to which words they use around the Deebo situation. Again, today it came out 49ers have no intention of trading Deebo Samuel for anything less than 2 first-round picks. Oh, okay. So they set the bar, and that's what it feels like. They're jockeying back and forth for overall compensation, They're doing it through the media. They're trying to let us know that, hey, we're not trading Deebo unless you give us what we want. And when we start to see those narratives change and shift, that can indicate to us that a deal is about to pop. So, just get ready, just be prepared. Again, I'm thinking tomorrow or Wednesday as a potential day to be announced, but hey, we'll find out. Again, kind of put a bow on today's press conference. Not a ton was said. Clearly, John Lynch deflected the situation, and rightfully so. I don't blame him. It's hard. It's hard to really have much of a legitimate conversation about a player who's requested a trade, who should be in the middle of a contract negotiation. So not much came from today. Exactly. Breaking news: Deebo Samuel has not been traded yet. So we'll continue to monitor it. We'll continue to see what else comes out. And yeah, so that's about it. So obviously Deebo's been dominating the conversation, but eventually we'll get into the draft. God, it sucks that this stuff just takes over the draft too. We can't even really have legitimate conversations about prospects for too long because it all somehow comes back to Deebo. It all somehow comes back to Deebo. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. I'll see you guys tomorrow. And yes, grab your participation trophies, grab your cookies and your medals if you made it through the whole live. Shout out to everyone if you guys been hopping in. I too am going to tend to my headache as well because it's starting to just get worse as the minutes go by. So shout out to everyone. Hopefully we have resolution soon and we have an answer soon. But until then, shout out you guys. I see you guys in the YouTube chat too on the 49ers page. Bread Gang was out there today. So we see the Bread Gang. Shout out to SDS. I'll see you guys tomorrow, barring any news. So until then, y'all have a good one, and we'll continue to watch. We'll continue to watch everything play out. So until then, jabo that like button. Oh my goodness, love you guys. I'm out of here. Peace.